Hold on.
What?
Our day is not over just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. Thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to watch the show, you can on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan on YouTube and you'll be able to see the live show happening. And if you would like to join the Skrabinator community, just get into the YouTube chat. Make sure you go to YouTube. Again, search 97.3 The Fan. You'll see the live show going on, and there's lots of people in the chat ready to chat with you and ready to have fun tonight on the Skraby Show or the Chronicles. I'm again, it's growing on me, the Chronicles. It's just very long. A very long title for, logos and graphics and everything like that. All right, we have a lot to do tonight. And I just got to say first, people say that the Major League Baseball season is way too long, but the NBA season to me is way too long. NBA, I went and looked this up. I know that the baseball season is actually longer when you look at the days. It's 220 days. I looked up from the third game the Padres played this year, which was like the actual opening day for all of baseball, until November 2nd, which could be Game 7 of the World Series, which is 220 days. The NBA, a lot less days, 127 days, but I just feel like by the time the NBA is over, they're already reporting to camp and all of that. So, all those people out there that think Major League Baseball season is too long, I would like to push it right back on you and say the NBA season is just way, way, way too long. They play a lot of games, 82. Why doesn't anybody ever say they need to play less games? In fact, I think they've even talked about playing less games and as a way to maybe cut down on load management. If they're not playing as many games, then they'll have more rest for their players. But I don't know why it needs to go from October 22nd all the way into like middle of June. The NBA playoffs, Dominic makes a great point on the chat. The NBA playoffs are a season within themselves. It seems like they go into it early May and they don't end till the end of June, which I didn't really come on here just to bash the NBA, but it's true. It's very true that I feel like the season is way too long. But nonetheless, it is here. We do got some interesting storylines so far in the NBA season tonight. I think as much as I joke about it on Gwen and Chris, I do think that Bronny and LeBron playing together on the same team, the Lakers, is pretty interesting. So we'll talk about that in just a second. We'll also go over what Eric Hosmer said. We'll also talk about that. Actually, in the last segment, I really want to do something called aggregators versus newsmakers. And it may not mean anything to you right now, but I promise I have a reason for it. And at the end of the show, we'll go over aggregators versus newsmakers. And it all kind of stems from Quinn Ewers in the report that he was going to go prepare for the NFL draft and not play the rest of the season at Texas. And it was posted yesterday by a sports publication, and it was wrong, and so they had to delete it and all this other stuff. But we'll talk about aggregators versus newsmakers. But tonight, with the Lakers in action, I am actually very interested to see what happens with LeBron and Bronny. Now, I give Bronny a hard time on the show. I give anybody a hard time who maybe has a leg up on other people because of who they're related to or anything like that. But I do think that it's we don't see this ever, really, is having a father-son duo on the same professional basketball team. We do not see this. So in a way, it's kind of historical. I know it's happened in the past, but it doesn't happen very often at all. Because most of the time, the kids are not even close to being old enough to play when they're when their parent is on their way out. And LeBron is definitely not on his way out because he's still playing basketball as good as he's ever played. But I just think it's very it's something that we will talk about years and years and years from now. Like, oh, remember that one time LeBron and Bronny played together on the same team? So I'm going to watch tonight, and I'm going to check it out, and I'm going to see what happens when Bronny gets in the game. We talked about it earlier during the Daily Gambit, but a lot of people are putting bets on Bronny James to win Rookie of the Year. Not because they actually think Rookie of the Year is going to be Bronny James. They think, hey, why not? This guy's got great DNA. He is the son of one of the best athletes of all time. So if there is a pedigree for a Rookie of the Year, it could be Bronny. I mean, so you put down $10, you could win $25,000 or $2,500 because it's plus $25,000. They also have a bet on whether or not LeBron is going to be the first assist for Bronny's career. So Bronny needs LeBron James, his dad, to pass him the ball and then make a shot. And it's plus 250 if that's his first made basket in the NBA, which I think is going to, I think there's a good possibility that happens. At first I was like, these odds aren't really that great. Seems like a lot of work for plus 250. But when you think about it, LeBron comes in this game, Bronny comes in this game, LeBron James is going to pass him the ball and try to get him to score first. All right, let's check in with the chat. We have Nate, we have Blue Meanie, we have Sir Yax, we have M. McKee, we have Maddie B, Maria, Dominic, Paul, Dan, Brandon, Eric. Let's see. Who else? I'm making sure I didn't mix it. Jax, and Javier. Javier says, Skraby the GOAT. So thank you very much, Javier, for that. We also got Nolan and Joel the Kid. Oh, hey, what's up, Joel the Kid? I remember you. And then San Diego Bleep. We can't really say his name on the air because there's a swear word in it. But thank you all for joining us. So another thing we talked about today would be, because Kevin Acee came out with an article about the coaching staff of the Padres and whether or not they can afford to lose a guy like Mike Schilt and Ruben Niebla and also the hitting coaches and the other coaches, but mainly focusing on Mike Schilt and Ruben Niebla. And while we've been saying this whole time, like, Ruben Niebla needs to come back, we really don't know how much he's getting paid. And it's kind of strange for us because we know usually how much people are getting paid in sports, but we don't know how much he's getting paid. So I really think Mike Schilt, because Ruben Niebla does not have a contract, so he's going to have to come to an agreement with the Padres, or hopefully not, but some other team before next season. Mike Schilt, though, he has 1 year left on his deal, so he's the quote-unquote lame duck, which means he's managing to kind of prove himself, and we've already kind of seen what he can do, so I don't know how much proving he needs to do. But the Padres definitely have to do something about this because they want to. Last year, they had the manager search, and the manager search took a little bit, and we were all wondering, like, how many guys are going to be off the board by the time the Padres get around to hiring a manager. And I do think that I do think that they want more time with things set in stone, meaning they want to be able to head into spring training, and well before heading into spring training, they want to know what their coaching staff is like, and they want to go for it. It's not something that I'm a fan of, like things like hanging in the air, like for months, kind of like the manager decision. I think they hired Mike Schilt around Thanksgiving last year, so that was pretty late into the year. The World Series was already over, and then it was, for Mike Schilt at least, it was straight on a plane to make kind of like a tour around, the Caribbean, a tour around different spots to meet up with players and talk with them and kind of get acquainted with them as a manager. Now, he was already part of the organization, so he had known these guys, but not as their manager. So he did a lot of traveling leading up into the season, trying to get a pulse on his club. You want him to feel like, hey, I have a job here. I have a job here for the next couple of years. So I'm going to go to work and I'm not going to have to worry about my future. Ruben Niebla, he's not a manager. I don't necessarily even know if he wants to be a manager, but I would think that he would get some sort of looks from different teams if he wants to be if he wants to be a manager. I would think, because of all the success he's had, and not to mention, like, if you're a baseball coach that's at the major league level, people talk all around the league about how good you are, how bad you are, but I'm sure that everybody around the league already knows how good Ruben Niebla is. So if he wants to move up, I don't think that anyone would have a problem with maybe talking to him about a managerial position. I've never talked to Ruben Niebla, so this is coming from my personal feelings. I personally feel like he wants to come back as the pitching coach slash, kind of like assistant head coach or assistant manager or something like that. I think that he wants to be back with this team. The pitching staff is great. The pitching staff he's worked with all year, he already knows these guys. There's not going to be too many new additions. He already knows what makes them tick. He already he can foresee what type of things they need to fix throughout the season. And I think it's important to get Ruben Niebla really, I think it's important to get him under the Padres umbrella for a very long time. So make that happen. Make that happen. Ed McKee says Niebla interviewed for the manager position. It does seem like a long time ago, but I do remember that, actually, him interviewing for the manager position. But Mike Schilt seems like he's the guy, and he seems like he carries himself as a manager to me, and that's very important too. Being able to manage is more important, but carrying yourself like a manager is very important. Blue Me says you want him to feel like this is his team. That's a great way to think about it, Blue Meanie. You do want him to think about it like this is his team. And he's not going to go into this year thinking, if I have a bad year, are they going to get rid of me? So we're going to know more about this in the next few weeks or month. But I think that we'll hear some good news sooner rather than later, because they just want to get this next season started. The preparation for next season definitely felt like they needed to get that started early this time around. Michael says on the chat, we need consistency in the same voice message moving forward. Mike is our guy and his staff needs to stay intact. That is a great point, Michael. Consistency in the voice and the message is a very important thing, and I'm glad you put that in the chat on YouTube, because we've seen different messages here just in the short time that I've worked in or for 97.3 The Fan. We've seen several different managers. We saw Bob Melvin, we saw Jace Tingler, we saw Andy Green. Those are the three managers that I have had while I've worked here at 97.3 The Fan. And now we have Mike Schilt managing the team, but having that consistent voice is really important, because guys are going to go into the offseason kind of knowing what's expected of them next year. Guys are also going to go into the offseason knowing what they can do better, what their manager wants to see from them. And so I do think that having that consistent voice is very important, because you're not getting multiple different viewpoints, and you're not changing the way a clubhouse thinks, acts, and all of that in every single year. You're actually going to have the same presence. So it's a familiarity thing. When they walk into the clubhouse, Mike Schilt is sitting right there, and it's just a good, comfortable thing for a team to have. And I think that that's going to be huge for them once they know that Mike Schilt is going to be there for, the time being. And really, it's up to the team whether or not he's going to stick around, because if the team doesn't play well, he's not going to stick around. But I think we already know that he's going to stick around for a little bit longer. Let's see. Yes, and McKee, consistency and stability. Also, Jacob says, Andy Green jump scare. Yes, Andy Green was mentioned on the Skraby Show. I think maybe the first time Andy Green has been mentioned on the Skraby Show. Looking through the chat, everybody was also thinking Benji Gill was one of the it was Benji Gill was one of the guys who was up for the manager job last year before Mike Schilt was hired. And I can't imagine if Mike Schilt, who knows? Benji Gill could have done great. But Mike Schilt has that pedigree. He has that experience. And I really thought this time around, the Padres needed a guy who had been there, done that before. And so that's what they got. And it showed. There were points in the season, I think, where a less experienced manager may kind of sort of lose the team or with things that they're saying in the media. Like Mike Schilt was steady the entire season long, no matter how bad it was, no matter how good it was. Mike Schilt had the same thing to say, and that's, we're going to go out there and we're going to try to win the game. And I know that's easy to say, but they actually did it. So when I say that he says that, I mean it, because he means it. And they did good things last year for Mike Schilt and bring him back. Him and Niebla, and AJ Preller said yesterday in his end of season press conference that they like the group of coaches and they want to bring him back. So we'll keep you up to date on that, but very important things in the offseason to get squared away real quick first. I just wanted to stop down and before we go to break, because I saw this on X this morning and I thought it was something I wanted to talk about, because Sheil Seidler had put up a picture of her coin from AA for the 22nd year. So congratulations to Sheil Seidler for getting 22 years of sobriety. That is massive. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because 22 years is nothing to laugh about. Not many people make it to 22 years. People do when they put in the work, but 22 years is a very... that just tells me a lot about her, because you have to fight through a lot to get to 22 years of sobriety. I'm coming up on 8. Is it 8 or 9? I keep forgetting, which is a good thing because I haven't drank in that long that I have no idea. But on December 5th, I'll have my 8th year. I'm pretty sure it's my 8th year without a drink. So I really, really look up to people like this. And I really want to let people know about this, because I think it's a big thing when you have someone the stature of Sheil Seidler, and she's sharing her 22nd year of sobriety. I think that's important, because there's some people out there that may not think that they can get one day, but maybe they'll see Sheil Seidler post this and think, okay, if she can do it, maybe I can do it. So I always want to bring stuff up like that. And congratulations on 22 years to Sheil Seidler. And if you want to go, you can go to her Twitter, I believe, at Sheil_Padres, and you can see that picture. All right, when we get back on the Skraby Show, we are going to talk about what Eric Hosmer said. And I will get into it on the other side. I know that people aren't excited about Eric Hosmer at all, but we'll talk about what he said about the Padres and the Juan Soto trade. We'll talk about that for a little bit. Also, later in the show, aggregators versus newsmakers. So stick around here. We got more on 97.3 The Fan.
Need a call.
Welcome back into the Odyssey Palace 97.3 The Fan. Matt Skraby here. The Skraby Show. You can follow me on social media if you want at Matt Skraby, MattsKraby as in boy Y. You can also find me on YouTube right now doing the show. Just go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan, and you will see the live show for the Skraby Show going on right now. Lots of good stuff in the chat right now about sobriety and kicking habits and all of that stuff. So that is something that we talk about here on the Skraby Show because it's a very big part of my life. I mean, I had to kick a habit. There's zero chance that I'm sitting here right now if I didn't stop drinking and getting my life together and stop doing all the stuff, because I was spiraling quickly and it was looking like it was really bad there for a little bit, but pulled myself out. It's been, 8 years of growing, but that's what you got to do. So if you're out there and you're thinking, man, I cannot do it, I'm not going to do it, I don't want to do it. If you don't want to do it, no one's going to force you to do it. But I do know that life on the other side is a lot better. All right, let's see here. We have Eric Hosmer. Let's just dive right into Eric Hosmer. And I know that Eric Hosmer is felt about here in San Diego in a certain type of way, but I will say, and yes, the Padres are still paying him through the next year. I will say this, though. Eric Hosmer is a pretty entertaining listen. His podcast, the Twitter account that they run for the podcast, I got to say, I've learned a lot from it. And Eric Hosmer has interesting opinions. He obviously was a player in the league, so he can comment on certain things like that. And one thing Eric Hosmer is, he does not care if he upsets anyone. So I can appreciate that too. And I really like his Twitter account now. I'll just say it. I'll just come out and say it. I like his personal Twitter account. He goes after fans. He interacts. It's a complete... For me, at least, it's a complete reversal of what he was as a player here in San Diego, because he wasn't this goofy, fun, debating type guy, but he is now. So I'm appreciating this, Eric Hosmer. Let's talk about his tweet, though, because Juan Soto hits that big home run on Friday. Or was it Friday or Saturday? I think it was Friday. He hits a 3-run home run. The Yankees go to the World Series. Eric Hosmer tweeted, "You win a trade when you win a World Series," because someone tweeted, "Both teams won the trade, holy cow." And then Eric Hosmer said, "You win a trade when you win a World Series." Now, there's a couple things that came to mind when I was thinking about this. And the first thing was, I think that's true, that you win a trade if you win the World Series in the postseason. In the regular season, I think both teams can say that they won the trade. Now, in the postseason, I think the Yankees are going to be able to say that they won the trade because they're still playing and the Padres are not still playing. And that's the biggest black and white, case closed type of argument. But in the regular season, I do think that both teams won the trade, and I do think that the Padres come out a little bit better on the side of the trade if we're talking regular season, because they don't have to worry about re-signing Juan Soto to a $3 billion deal that apparently he's going to get. No, he's not going to get $3 billion, but they're saying it could be upwards of $550 or $600 million. Personally, I just don't know why I would bring why? That's a crazy contract. I mean, Shohei Ohtani at least does both, pitch and hit. Well, he'll pitch next year and hit next year. But I don't see how a team is going to wrap their mind around paying someone $550 million or $600 million over like 12, 13, 14 years. I know that the Padres did that with Fernando, but they did not pay $550 million or $600 million. They paid $340, was it? $320? Somewhere in the low to mid 300 millions, which is something I wish I could say about my bank account and salary. But during the season, there were many times where the Padres, we talked about it on the show, Michael King made so many starts that benefited the Padres this year. We all know about Drew Thorpe being flipped for Dylan Cease. That's also a huge positive. And we know Kyle Higashioka himself helped out the Padres immensely, coming as like a backup catcher. And I don't want to say throw-in because I don't know if it was a throw-in, but it seems like one of those guys that you're just like, oh, we need a catcher. Can we have Kyle Higashioka? Okay, yeah, we can have him. He ends up being huge as well. So you got a couple guys right there that are benefiting the Padres. And then you got Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito, and the list goes on and on from what they got for Juan Soto. And I really, truly believe that the Yankees, if they win the World Series, sure, they could say they won the trade. But if they don't win the World Series and Juan Soto goes somewhere else, they absolutely lost the trade. They absolutely lost the trade. There's no way around it. Because the World Series, or the Yankees traded for him knowing he was a rental. And being a rental makes me nervous because we've seen these rentals here in town, and some players are more important than others. But Juan Soto being a rental at $30 million on his arbitration this year, Juan Soto being a rental makes me feel like the Padres had the upper hand on what they got in return. Now, again, if they win the World Series, the Yankees, then I think the Yankees can say that they won the trade and feel good about it. I also think that the Padres can say that they won the trade and feel good about it because they got a lot of pieces from Juan Soto's trade that are currently and did have a impact on the Padres in 2024. So to say that you only win the trade when you win the World Series is, I think, a little too. I think it's a little too broad. I think there needs to be some qualifications there, because really, if the Yankees don't get him back, Juan Soto, that is, then they traded away a lot for one season, one really great season, but one season of Juan Soto, and they're going to be the first the first right of refusal. The Yankees are going to be, they're going to have the hand up on they're going to have a hand up on everybody else because he's already in house, and so they can have the negotiations. He already knows what kind of life he has with the Yankees. I think he loves it. I think he loves obviously playing with Aaron Judge and being on the Yankees, and we all know that he loves being in the spotlight, and that's what he is in New York. He's in the spotlight. But to think that he could walk after this year would make me really nervous about things going forward. Kirsten says King got his postseason win, which is a good sign. Oscar says he's a Dodgers fan. I mean, in my opinion, the Padres got to step up on the Yankees, but what do I know? I'm just a baseball fan first and a huge Dodger fan second. All right, Oscar, you were respectful. Don't mind you being in the chat as long as you're not harassing any of the other people here. But, hey, Dodger fans saying that they won the trade as well. And McKee says, then most trades are a loss by that reasoning, right? I'm not sure exactly what part you're talking about, but if you could type that in there. Rod says, still very happy with our return for Soto. Hands down, we won the trade. Soto is just one player who only produced for the Yankees. That's true. That's very true. He is only one player that produced for the Yankees. I also think it's kind of weird for us to argue about who won the trade, even though I just spent like 10 minutes on it, because truly in this case, I feel like they came out pretty even, and that's what I'm going to go with, is that they came out pretty even. Padres got what they wanted out of the trade. Yankees got what they wanted out of the trade. Winning the World Series does put you above, but I don't know that it actually helps you win the trade until he's locked up in a Yankees uniform for a very long time. All right. That was my Eric Hosmer thoughts. Now, I've been thinking about this segment all day. I don't know how it's going to go, but I think it's going to go well. Aggregators versus newsmakers. I'll tell you about aggregators versus newsmakers when we get back on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
The
Final segment of the Skraby Show for tonight. I just got a daily gripe from Nate on the chat. It's a good one. I have some thoughts on it as well. Also, Oscar, our Dodger fan on the chat, is unhappy, which I don't necessarily disagree with him that he should be unhappy. He was nice about everything. He said he was a baseball fan first. He wasn't like ragging on Padres fans. He was just here, and everybody posted FTD, which you let your imagination tell you what that means. I'm not necessarily a fan of the FTD because I don't really like talking trash to people. I'm just not someone who likes to do that. But people in the chat, be nice to Oscar because he's a nice fan. All right. Em McKee said something on the... I asked her to clarify her comments about winning a trade, and she said, basically, if you make a trade and you don't win the World Series, is that a failure? Or you lose the trade? I think it's case by case. A lot of things in my mind are case by case, but I think in this case, that's what the Yankees were doing. The Yankees were trading for Juan Soto because they needed to win the World Series. Aaron Boone was on the hot seat. I'm forgetting. Why am I forgetting? I don't know why I'm forgetting their GM's name right now, but he was on the hot seat. There were a lot of people on the hot seat, and their trade to get Juan Soto was made for one reason, and that is for them to win the World Series. So in that case, I think it is a failure. It's not really a failure, but in Yankees fans' eyes, I think it would be a failure because they haven't won a World Series in a really long time. Really long time. People are trying to guess what FTD means, and I'm not going to give it to anybody because I don't want to arm people. All right, here is the aggregator versus newsmaker conversation. Now, it's going to all stem off of Quinn Ewers and the news story that 24/7 Sports, they put out a post saying that he was going to be sitting out the rest of the season to prepare for the NFL draft. He came out and said it is absolutely not true. He's not doing this. And I do think this is the slippery slope of social media, is that people pose as experts and they're not actually experts. And then the 24/7 Sports account, Brian Cashman, thank you, Dwayne, is the GM of the Yankees. The 24/7 Sports account said that they were hacked and that went up. But if you're going to hack an account, why are you putting up like pretty tame news? Like, I guess it's a big deal for Texas fans, but if you're going to hack an account, you're going to do maximum damage. And there was no real damage being done here, other than the fact that Texas fans freaked out for a second. But I bring all of that up to say, know who you are retweeting or resharing and liking and taking it as fact. I had to learn this the hard way many times. Early in my radio career, I was very gullible. I would fall for things. And now I am the hardened radio vet who doesn't believe in anything until I confirm it. And sometimes I still will get it wrong because it's hard. There are a lot of accounts out there that look really good. They look exactly like the account that is reporting it, and then people get, I don't know, they start sharing it a bunch, and then it gets snowballs, and then it becomes huge, and then all of a sudden that fake tweet is actually news. But I bring it up because aggregators versus newsmakers is something I learned in like the first 2 months of working in sports radio. Newsmakers are people who are actually on site in press conferences, talking to the players, being there for the games, being there around the team. Those are newsmakers. Aggregators are people who use other people's content and reporting to further their own social media accounts. I actually brought this up a while back, maybe one of my first Skraby shows. It was a daily gripe, but I had a friend who works for a news service in another city, and there was someone in town that would take their videos and then repost them on their account, give them credit, but bury the credit, and then use their video like they were there. And that's what an aggregator is. An aggregator is someone who is not there, and they're putting up stuff that has been created by someone else so that it looks like they are the ones who are putting it out. And so this is I think this is a very important thing, because a lot of us do fall for things on the internet. And I think when you're looking at your news, when you are kind of parsing through X or Instagram or whatever you do for news or social media, TikTok, you need to look for the people that are the on-site reporters, because those are the people that have worked really hard to get there. And I can specifically think, because this also stemmed off of last night with Todd Bowles, Buccaneers head coach, and the Chris Godwin thing, where people were very, very, very upset with with Todd Bowles for leaving Chris Godwin in the game because they weren't able to do another onside kick. And you were like, what? Why would they think that? Well, a lot of people on X thought that Todd Bowles didn't know the rules. Now, these people were being told this by an aggregator account. And the aggregator account heard from someone that, the rule is you can only do one onside kick in the fourth quarter. And that's not true at all. So the aggregator puts this out there. People start taking it as fact, and then they go into trashing Todd Bowles for not knowing the rules. It would be crazy if you could only do one onside kick. I know that the onside kick rules are a little bit different, because you have to make the other team aware, and you can only do it in the fourth quarter when your team is losing. So when Chris Godwin went out, it was 41-31. And they were trying to score another touchdown, get another onside kick, which they already had recovered one, and then try to score again and tie it up. And so I say that because a lot of people fell for this aggregator fake news and took it as fact and ran with it. So even I, when I saw this last night, was like, wait a second, is that true? So I went and looked it up. It's not true. It's something that they voted on, but you are allowed to do more than one onside kick in a game. So the reason that a lot of this spiraled out of control is because an account who has a lot of followers is just taking what they're being told or what they're seeing on the internet, not really checking it and just going with it, and then it misinforms people, and then people get mad at Todd Bowles, and people call him bad names on X because he doesn't know the rules, when in reality he does. And more so, like, here in town, the newsmakers, like, because people are trying to guess newsmakers aggregators. Rosenthal, according to Jax, is an aggravator. I read it wrong. That is funny. He's an aggravator. Wow. That is hilarious, to be honest. Ken Rosenthal, take it for what you want. He is a newsmaker because he's there. He's talking to players. He's talking to coaches. He's in press conferences, things like that. But there's one very specific NFL account I'm thinking of right now who will just break news like crazy, make their own graphics, make it look amazing, and then never, really provide any sort of background on how they got that information, or if they just really want to get the likes and the engagement for breaking news. And I can't stand behind it. I really, really, really think that the people who are working as reporters right now, have worked very hard to get into their position. And it doesn't sit right with me that someone could just sit at home and take videos off the internet and, credit that person, but still you're getting all the engagement, you're getting all the views, and you were just sitting at home downloading videos on the internet. Now, do I think that those accounts are kind of fun? Some of them are, but some of them really do take the next step of not really... They take the next step of not crediting people. And so the reason I learned about aggregators versus newsmakers is because when I first started booking guests, I started booking aggregators thinking that they were newsmakers. And then it was explained to me, newsmakers versus aggregators. And then then my guest booking became much more focused from there. But because we had someone on the show who didn't actually know what they were talking about because they weren't there. They didn't talk to the player. They were just re-sharing what they had seen on the internet. And that's where I think everybody needs to be really careful about where they find things. Now, I'm going to bring this local, too, because there was a taco shop, and it's called Los Cuatro Milpas. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But a blog called San Diegoville said that this restaurant that's been in business for 91 years, it's in Barrio Logan. It said that the Mexican place would be going out of business sometime next year. And the earlier version of the post said the building housing the restaurant had been sold to a neighboring church. So this is Fox 5 San Diego who reached out to this restaurant because it's a very popular restaurant. And they contacted the owner, and the owner said, quote, "Surprised ourselves by the news, only to confirm we are open and continue to look forward to serving you today and tomorrow." They even had to go as far as to create an Instagram account yesterday so that they could put this out on the internet. But Sophia Estudio is the current owner of the restaurant, said it was a pure shock because they found that it had been circulating online when she began fielding phone calls from worried customers, and she had been told by people that it was apparently confirmed by a man who worked at the restaurant, but no such person exists because all of the workers are currently women. So there are no men that work there. And so this is another one of those things where being first is not better than being right. Being first is wrong, because if you're wrong, then you are really putting people in a bad spot. And so people are thinking this restaurant of over 91 years old is going to close down, and it's definitely not going to close down. Now, Rod says on the chat it's very good. I need to go there because I have not had this before. But this comes back to sourcing. And everybody needs to source. Everybody needs to make sure that their news is right. So if you find something and you think it's crazy, if you think that maybe it's a little wild, then maybe it is. Maybe you should check it out. Because, you want to be right instead of being first. All right, I've already griped enough, but here's our daily gripe.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
I just can't believe that this poor business owner, I'm back on the restaurant thing. I can't believe this poor business owner had to field all phone calls from worried people, all because a blog said that they were closing and they were sold to another church, which wasn't true at all. So it does make me somewhat more angry when things like this happen. And they should not have to put out news and create Instagram accounts because a blog wanted to tell everybody it was closing. Maybe I don't even know. Maybe they were just trying to get clicks. It caused a stir because I saw it in a lot of places and I was like, oh, what is this place? And then I saw that Fox 5 thing. All right. The gripe comes from Nate on the chat. And if you have a gripe, please bring it to me because I am not above using other people's gripes because I really think that some days I just don't have one. So I need one. But today I got one. And Nate said, please talk about dog owners picking up after their dogs, picking up the waste. Because apparently Nate was walking around and in his yard was a pile of dog waste. And guess what? Nate stepped in it and Nate tracked it through the house and all of this other stuff. And if you remember, so the gripe is, please people, pick up after your dogs when they go to the bathroom. But if you remember, and Brandon says, especially in someone else's yard. Yeah, especially. That's where I'm going. If you remember, I had this thing called the neighborhood pooper, where their dog would poop in my yard every single day. And they would leave it there. So I kind of staked it out one time. And I was kind of trying to make sure that I found out who it was. But the gripe is to pick up after your dog. I pick up after Lucky all the time. I don't want to step in stuff. I don't want Lucky to step in stuff. I don't want people to step in stuff. So why? I don't understand sometimes just... Here, I'm rolling now. I don't understand sometimes just how people are so inconsiderate of everybody else out there. Like, it just boggles my mind that someone sees their dog go to the bathroom and just leaves it in someone's yard. Like, how? I would feel bad. And Nate stepped in it, tracked it through his garage into his house, and now has to clean up after his after tracking it all inside. So please, people, my gripe to you is to pick up after your dog. It's a huge problem in our neighborhood. It's a huge problem everywhere. But don't be that person. Just bring the bags with you. And if it goes in someone else's yard, you need to pick it up. All right, that's it for the Skraby Show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Back tomorrow. Ben and Woods start the day at 6 a.m. on 97.3 The Fan.